Good day there once again, viewers. This is your mate Kamikaze78 here, coming to you guys with some more Planetside 2 content. Today guys, we're going to be reviewing the VE-LR Obelisk Empire specific DMR available to the VE Sovereignty for 1000 certs or 699 Daybreak coin. Now, this is a rifle that has made a fairly recent appearance on the battlefield and has quickly become one of the most feared weapons by NC and TR soldiers in ranged combat. For all of those who are new to my channel, how we tend to do things around here is give the weapon a quick TLDR breakdown for those who are a little short on time, but still want to know how to use the thing. Then go over some stats in detail and discuss some weapon specific strategy and attachment options that best fit with the weapon's playstyle. But of course, for all of those who need to be out here nice and quickly, I invite you to step into my office as we do a quick TLDR of the Obelisk and what you can expect from the VE's latest iteration of Long Range Harassment Simulator. A lot of people out there who have used the Doku range of Empire specific battle rifles will often tell you that the VS got the best deal this time around with the Obelisk, and I can confirm that they aren't exactly lying to you. The Obelisk is made up of all the ingredients that you want in a weapon that is designed to be used as a precision-based, long-range, semi-automatic rifle. No bullshit, just the stuff you want and need. For one, it features the VE Sovereignty standard mechanic of no bullet drop, which makes this thing a point-and-click adventure heaven for nailing enemy domes at any range that you're presented with. Spotted someone sitting dead still a kilometer away? No problem, just aim for the head and watch him drop like a sack of potatoes. But beyond that, it features a heat mechanic. Such a heat mechanic allows for you to be entirely dependent of the team with no requirements to find an engineer to top up on ammunition, meaning that if you find a solid flank, the only thing between you and going to town on those heretics is your own accuracy and efficiency. So at the end of the day, this is a rifle designed for those who want to sit back at range and be fairly independent and just nail domes like no tomorrow. But I'm going to say that a fair few of you are more interested than a simple TLDR breakdown of this masterpiece. In case you hadn't figured it out already, I really like this gun. So with that, let's go down some of the stats and figure out where the Obelisk sits in the grand scheme of things. The Obelisk gets us started with an absolutely devastating damage output of 334. And yeah, you heard me right, I didn't say maximum or minimum there because this weapon doesn't actually feature any damage drop off at all. It remains at a consistent 334 damage at all ranges, meaning that there is no guesswork here with this weapon depending on what range you are using it at. Another reason why I absolutely adore this weapon for long range use and why scoring these ever so satisfying headshots are ever so rewarding. This makes the weapon a solid 3-shot kill against any target that has no damage modifiers in play, but you can get that down to an even better 2-shot kill if you take a little bit more time to aim for some domes. Now, factoring the weapon's rate of fire of 185 rounds per minute, or 3 rounds per second, and, well, a 3 rounds per second rate of fire is admittingly a bit of a mission to accomplish with a semi-automatic rifle, but with that we can get to the incredibly theoretical time to kill of 0.65 seconds across all ranges. But with this being a semi-automatic weapon, it will be incredibly difficult to reach this kind of time to kill, as you'll have to fire at a perfect interval to, match what the weapon can accomplish, and doing so can potentially throw your aim off in the process thanks to the recoil. Instead of trying to maximize your rate of fire, you are much better off aiming for headshots and going for quality over quantity, which will in turn lower your time to kill drastically as well. Moving right on along, we get to the recoil of the weapon. Now, as far as the recoil on a DMR is concerned, the only stat that you ever really need to be worried about here is the vertical recoil, as while yes, the horizontal recoil is a thing here, your shots will be so spread out that the horizontal recoil should recover after each shot, which means that the horizontal recoil shouldn't affect your overall accuracy when you time your shots right. The weapon does feature a 0.8 degree per shot vertical kick, which is on the high end of town, but the first shot multiplier is non-existent. Literally sitting at 1 times, so you are going to have a consistent vertical recoil to deal with, which is going to make getting into the rhythm with this thing a whole lot easier. As far as the horizontal recoil is concerned, for all of you true gun stats nuts out there who enjoy looking at gun stats regardless of how, relevant they are, the horizontal recoil sits at 0.08 degrees per shot with a horizontal recoil tolerance of 0.08 degrees, meaning that the weapon will only kick horizontally in one direction once at a time and then will revert back the other direction. The weapon's horizontal recoil can also sit at 3 degrees influence to the left or to the right, but once again this shouldn't affect the weapon too badly here. But one thing that I do want to point out here in particular is the cone of fire on the weapon, more specifically the aiming down sights values. And yes, you read that right, this weapon has no cone of fire variance for your first shot whenever you are aiming down sights. Where you are aiming is where your round will go, and every shot will only bloom by 0.1 degrees. In other words, this thing is fucking pinpoint accurate. Ammunition wise, as we said before, the weapon is a heat based weapon, meaning that ammo is not of concern here at all. The weapon's heat capacity is equivalent to that of 6 shots in a magazine, and upon overheating you will have to deal with a 3-second delay before the cooldown process can begin. But with a short 0.4 second delay in heat recovery after each shot, you would have to be going completely balls to the wall to run into any issues with the heat mechanic here. On top of this, the aiming down sights movement multiplier is 0.5 times, and your muzzle velocity clocks in at 550 meters per second. So with all that, we have the joy that is the Obelisk. And look, when Doku's lineup of faction-specific DMRs hit the game, it didn't take people all that long to come to the conclusion that the VS gang were the lucky ones in this drop. Out of all the new rifles to have come to the game, bar a couple of unlucky team kills / enemy kill combos with the same bullet on the Bishop, the Obelisk takes the cake of being the best DMR of the bunch for effectiveness and niches. The weapon just features everything you could ask for a weapon of its type. 0 bullet drop, consistent damage across all ranges, a heat mechanic. What's not to love? This is essentially a weapon that anybody who wants a longer range or more supportive style of play will absolutely adore. However, the entire weapon demands your patience and respect when using it. You need to take it slow and not rush into situations that it isn't ready for. This isn't a weapon you want to go destroying the trigger on to maximize your rate of fire, or try jamming into a close quarters style of firefight. Why? Well, for 2 reasons. For one, the weapon's rate of fire just isn't designed for outgunning full autos at those closer distances. You can hit all the headshots you want in the world in that CQC environment, but the weapon just isn't going to be able to overpower most weapons in that field. The DPS just isn't there. Not to mention that, unlike most other weapons, you can't get anything in return for closing the gap, as the damage output remains the exact same across all ranges regardless. So again, there's too much effort for not enough reward there. Sure, you might scrape by a couple of close quarters engagements in case a guy just, simply can't aim, but it's not worth taking that risk in the slightest. The heat mechanic also demands that you focus on being a little bit more patient and not just rapid firing the trigger like nobody's business. The weapon will overheat at 6 shots here, giving it a smaller magazine size to the other faction's equivalents of rifles, which means that you essentially need to down your target, take a few seconds, let the weapon cool down, let it get back into a nice comfy position, and then take your next couple of shots at your next target to ensure that you don't overheat the weapon and get stuck with a lengthy reload where you could be killing more fools. Rapid firing the trigger in a close quarters environment is the most likely situation where you're going to end up getting caught out with that lengthy cooldown time. And with that, I don't think there's really any extra tips that I can apply to this weapon. It's a simple, straight shooter DMR that aims to do one thing and does it really, really well. There's no added niches to look out for here. The only thing that will really get in the way of you using this thing well is how you use it. Whether or not you can time your shots well, keep your crosshairs on target, and not force the weapon into situations that it simply shouldn't be used in. And all of this will come down to your map knowledge and your practice with the weapon in general. A weapon of such simplicity is quite hard to offer tips on because it mainly comes down to how well you practice with it, and there are no major nuances that I need to go over with you guys that might see you have a bad time. And to be honest, I like that we have a weapon in the game now that is like that. It's the first weapon for a very long time that is just very simple with no overall nuances to look out for, and I really enjoy that. But why use this weapon over the current DMR, the Eidolon? Well, it focuses on being a little bit more of a heavy hitter and lets you play a little bit more of a solo warrior role thanks to the heat mechanic. The Eidolon brings a faster rate of fire with less damage output overall, making it a bit more of a weapon for players who still want to stick with the squad for those point room holes but still have some effectiveness at a further range at the back of the pack. The Eidolon is definitely a lot more forgiving, which makes it a little bit more applicable to more close quarters environments. The Obelisk ends up being a weapon that should appeal to those who enjoy sitting back even further, whether that be supporting a group of long range AV maxes above armor columns on, hill tabletops above, or as a pesky infiltrator who's providing intelligence to the team, all the while clearing way for the team from a decent distance. The Eidolon is by far the more versatile rifle, but the Obelisk is definitely much more competent as a long-range battle rifle. But now that you've bought yourself a brand new shiny rifle, it's time to go over some of the attachment options to better improve the weapon for the field use. The weapon can mount a 1x through to 6x optic, including a 1x Iron V optic, the enhanced plasma containment for the barrel attachment, and the dark light flashlight, manual calibration, and the safety override for the rail attachments. Now, as far as the optics are concerned, it's really going to come down to just what kind of range you're going to be fighting at, but anything shy of 3.4 times optics is just going to be really ineffective for the weapon. As I said before, this is not a CQC weapon, so trying to fit the weapon into such a range of engagement is just simply not going to work. 3.4 times should be your absolute minimum. Just pick out a scope that suits the range of the situation and go for it. For the barrel attachment, this is entirely optional. The 15 meter increase in detectability on the minimap can have a small impact if someone has their minimap dialed out to the maximum range, but having no muzzle flash can also help keep you concealed in low light environments, especially with the VS armor coloring in play too. The main point of contention is going to be coming in the form of the rail attachment, in particular whether to take the manual calibration or the safety override. With the safety override, your heat per shot and damage per shot is halved when hip firing, but your rate of fire is doubled and your hip fire cone of fire is reduced by 25%, essentially giving the weapon a panic button of sorts. Being completely honest, this panic button does feel incredibly unreliable on personal experience, so much more to the point where I'd actually instead grab manual calibration to give you a little bit more crowd control ability when aiming down sights, and instead grabbing yourself a reliable secondary that you can, quickly switch to when worse comes to worse. I personally find the NS45 Pilot to be a great option for this rifle. And folks, on that note, that brings us to a close on today's review of the VE-LR Obelisk Vanu Sovereignty DMR that came out with Doku's new lineup of DMR rifles. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure reviewing this weapon. I really had a good time testing out the Obelisk. It's an absolutely brilliant weapon, and for anyone on the Vanu Sovereignty who enjoys the more long-range style of gameplay, I definitely recommend picking this one up. It is quite possibly one of the most powerful weapons in the game once you learn how to control it. Guys, if you enjoyed today's review, then please do feel free to backhand that like button. It'd be greatly appreciated, and backhand that subscribe button whilst you're at it to keep up to date with all things that I'm doing here on my channel. Any sort of support would be greatly appreciated. Follow me on Twitch and Twitter as well. Social media links can be found in the description down below, and you're also invited to join my Discord to talk all things Planetside and all things gaming in general, and to get updates as to whether I upload content or go live on Twitch. Once again, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope you guys all have a great day. Thank you very much for watching once again, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys. Have a good one.